Today we're going to talk more with Jessica about how she rehabbed her Achilles and what you can do if you've been a chronic sufferer of Achilles tendonitis or tendinopathy to hopefully overcome this Achilles problem and be back to a strong and healthy runner. The Achilles tendon seems to be one of those injuries that can plague people for a long time. I'm so happy, knock on wood, that I haven't had problems with it yet, but I know it's been something that you've struggled with over the years. So tell us what you do about it.
You can try so many different things with an Achilles, and different things are going to help different people. It's a lot of trial and error. But the Achilles is a really nasty beast, and it can stick around forever if you don't manage it. The only evidence-based way to heal an Achilles tendon is to do loading and maybe shockwave, which is something that a therapist could do. That's sort of like a high-powered ultrasound. You would need to go to a physio for that. But loading it with heel drops very carefully and keeping it getting stronger without overloading it. So your Achilles gets injured really when it's overloaded, or it's loaded not in a proper way. So if your foot sitting a little bit weird, you have some issues in your biomechanics, you're basically just torquing that tendon in a way that it doesn't need to be or it shouldn't be, and it gets angry, irritated, weak, torn, any of that. To make it stronger, you need to strengthen it, which like rest alone won't fix it. You need to put some force through it. And I think a lot of runners get confused with that, and that means, okay, great, I can run. And sometimes you can, but not all the time, because you need to keep it below a certain threshold. If you just keep pushing it and pushing it and pushing it and ignoring your angry tendon, in my experience, it doesn't heal. It needs to be loaded properly. So if a biomechanical issue was the problem, that needs to be addressed, ideally by a physio, chiro, whatever, and then you need to strengthen it. So to do that, most commonly, you do eccentric heel drops. So that would be off a stair, lowering your heels slowly, doing reps of that. Starting with 2 legs, when you get stronger, you can do it on 1 leg. Then you start to add weight, maybe in a backpack or maybe holding weight. You basically want to do as much as you can without hurting yourself, which is sort of an ambiguous idea, but basically you really want to push it. You want to strengthen your tendon. And the reason why that's okay, but just running recklessly isn't, is because you're doing 5 or 6 or 10 or 30 reps of heel drops. Running a mile, you're taking 800 steps. So that is completely different.
Similar principles to the way I rehabbed my hamstring tendon was giving it some loading, strengthening it. We're trying to strengthen the structures around the tendon as well, and having kind of a benchmark. So I was taught that a 4 out of 10 kind of pain threshold, up to a 4 is okay as long as it's not worse the next day. So if the next day it returns to your baseline or to what it was before you did an activity, then you're tolerating the activity. If it's getting progressively worse, then it's not tolerating your activity.
Yeah, I've been told with an Achilles that the next day you may feel worse, but the day after that you should feel better.
So it's a 48-hour rule.
Exactly. So that can be really, really helpful if you track it and subjectively give yourself score of your tendon pain every day and know what your baseline is, and in general it should be getting better. If it's going the other way, you need to back off.
If you're changing the way that you're running, if your pain is excruciating, if you're hobbling around, all those sorts of things are no-go zone.
Definitely. Occasionally you'll have a tear in your tendon, not a complete rupture. That's obviously, you can't run with a complete rupture, but you'll get these tiny little tears. And sometimes if an Achilles injury is lingering for a really long time, that's what's going on, even if you've rehabbed it and rested it and whatnot. So an ultrasound can show you that. And in that case, you need a little bit more rest, a little bit less load. Sometimes when your Achilles inserts onto your heel bone, it can get really, really sore. And I've found that certain shoes will rub it right at that insertion and irritate it. So by playing around with the footwear that you're wearing, you can offload a lot of that pressure. Also look at the heel drop on your shoe. So there is a trend towards more minimal shoes. Those are much, much harder on your calves and Achilles. So something with a pretty moderate to almost maximal heel drop, like a 10mm is what I normally look for in my footwear. That's really going to offload the strain on your Achilles.
hopefully people won't have to learn the way that Jess has learned through trial and error quite as much. Hopefully they can just take the shortcuts and just piggyback on her good advice here.